And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, I'm looking at everybody in the chat room and they're asking why it says September 4th on the broadcast. That is because Joseph Tillman, I don't even know his middle initial, is not with us tonight. He's okay, but he apparently doesn't think the show is quite as important as the rest of you all think that it is. So what I decided to do is come on live without any notification, let you guys know that we're going to be live. We're going to take a couple of phone calls, see what happens. Mordy, La Shana Tova or Shana Tova. It is just about to be the Jewish New Year here on the West Coast. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. If you're new to the broadcast, don't know who I am, why I am here, look, this is the Hair Loss Show. My name is Spencer Kobren, and I am the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, also author of The Bald Truth and The Truth About Women's Hair Loss. Have been doing this broadcast for well over, 22 years. And kind of just been, I'd say the last few years, maybe the last 5 years, I was kind of, I guess, in semi-retirement. And it was Joe Tillman, whose page you're watching. I'm not even streaming this on GFQ right now. So for all of you guys, 11 guys who are currently watching on Joe's page, I'm back because of him. I decided to do this on a regular basis again because Joe kind of pointed me out to what was happening on YouTube and on social media when it comes to hair transplant surgery and hair loss and all of the insanity that has ensued and continues to throughout these social platforms. Look, this is a silent epidemic that affects 2/3 of men by the age of 35. 40% of hair loss sufferers are women. This is an insane situation that really creates tremendous vulnerability for those who are dealing with hair loss. Now, well, I'll talk more about vulnerability in a second, and how we are all vulnerable at really no matter how old we are or at what stage of hair loss we are dealing. I'll tell you now, and I said this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Look, I'm 55 years old, right? I've been dealing with this since I've been 21 years old. And I've been able to avoid all of the snake oils. Well, I didn't avoid the snake oils originally, but I've been able to avoid being disfigured by really all these really incredibly unskilled, just unethical physicians that litter this field. I've been able to avoid a lot of the stuff that people don't avoid because even though I was exceptionally vulnerable, that's a tough word for me, at the age of 21 when I started to deal with this. And even though it was the late 80s and essentially there was no valuable or information of value online, I somehow stepped back. I was able to take a look at things kind of objectively, even though I was in a panic. And I realized that this industry is a complete sham for the most part, especially back then. So I think last week or the week before I said to you guys, I recently upped my finasteride dosage after years of weekly intermittent therapy. And the reason for that is I have noticed that I'm going on a slight decline. I've kind of noticed this for a few years, but I noticed more shedding than I'm used to. And I thought to myself, Spence, how would you advise a 55-year-old guy who is going through this again after so many years of kind of dealing with it and slowing it down significantly? What would you say to a guy who is dealing with this at the age of 55, kind of like almost all over again? And the truth is, at this age, even though I've been dealing with this since the age of 21, it still sucks. But with the information that I'm armed with, obviously I wouldn't make any hasty decisions. I understand how medication works and medical therapy works, and I know the steps to do. But what would I do if things didn't work out for me? Would I decide to have a hair transplant? Would I shave my head? These are things that go through my mind. They've been going through my mind, obviously, for the last 30 years, but when you're going through an active loss process or a shed or a telogen effluvium, you think about these things. I can tell you this. After being in this industry for 23 years, knowing what I know, knowing the type of person I am, I do not believe that I am currently a candidate for hair transplant surgery, even if I was able to, get back to the point, which I think I can, of really slowing the progression significantly. Now, if I got to the point where I felt I couldn't paint anymore or whatever, I would maybe probably do exactly what I told Mordy to do last week. And Mordy, you should call in, by the way. 888-659-3727. I'd like to hear if you did any research. But I would absolutely try, which I've tried before, to kind of like have like a yarmulke system in the back. And if I needed more than that, I would create a template so that I could wear more hair. That's what I would do. That would be my first step. And I'm saying this to you now as I just upped my finasteride dosage. So for anyone who believes that surgery is your first step, and so many out there do because of social media, because of Instagram. I mean, I went through my feed today. It's fucking sickening. It really is. Let me give out the phone number. And guys, I'm going to stay on for like 5 minutes doing this opening unless somebody calls in. So the phone number is 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. If you have any questions or concerns about your hair loss, if you are considering having hair transplant surgery, if you just want to say hi and vent, here's your opportunity. I decided to kind of just flip on the camera and see who came into Joe's room or Joe's channel. And that's it. Oh, more likely shave my head. Well, it's possible that I would shave my head. But I don't know, honestly, if I feel completely comfortable with that. I wouldn't. I would not. Absolutely not. I would love to have that option in my arsenal. We all do. But for me personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I kind of know what I might look like with a shaved head, and that wouldn't be great. However, it's also possible that I would do a combination. I would strengthen my hairline if I needed to with surgical hair restoration and use a combination of surgery, wearing hair, and obviously continue on with meds. My next step would probably be if meds don't kick in or if things don't seem to get better. And honestly, I've had much worse, so I feel okay about it now. But I would probably absolutely go and get some sort of other regenerative treatment, PRP with exosomes, kind of move down that route until I get to the point where, if it does happen, I need to make a more drastic decision. All right, guys, 888-659-3727. I don't see any lights on, so, and thank you, Damien, that my hair looks great. It currently does. It currently looks okay. And that's the good news. But, when you are, and it may stay this way for another decade, or maybe a very slow progression. But once it kind of starts again, you know, you have to kind of, early intervention is the key with anything. So I've decided to make some changes in my process. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Shana Tova, Spencer. It's
Shana
Mordy from Brooklyn.
Tova, Mordy from Brooklyn. Thank you so much for calling, man. So
it's my pleasure, man.
So let me ask you this. Last week we talked about you potentially trying to wear hair just as an option while you're in lockdown. Did you look into it?
I hit the website. I took a quick peek. These people definitely need to pick some better examples because you go to a website and you want to see the best that they can offer.
Which website did you go to? Hair Direct?
I think it was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let me see. I have not been on their website in many years. So if you think that it looks like shit, then it probably does. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the classic problem of, the hairline being too low and the temple points being too recessed. It looks bizarre, and you basically have somebody who, you look at their faces, their jowls, their the bags under their eyes, and then you look at their hairline, and it's like, no, you're a 60-year-old man with a 15-year-old hairline.
Right.
That just doesn't make sense.
And here's the thing, though, about these things, and because they're so relatively inexpensive, and because they have different types of bases, I think that a lot of the guys, even the guys, I'm looking at the homepage. I mean, it's okay. Mm-hmm. Some of it's okay on their homepage. I would say one of the guys where it says "Embark on your new journey," I could see that he's wearing because he does have recessed sides. One of the other guys looks pretty good. But the reality is you would have to be able to learn how to finesse it yourself. That's it. You have to find a person to cut it in. You would have to cut your hairline higher. You would have to order a density that's, light, medium to light, so that you see some more hair. For whatever reason, they don't show those examples on these websites, or at least on this one right now, because most guys who are looking to wear hair want like a full, really super full looking head of hair. And you're right, it does look bizarre.
It looks really strange. Yeah, I mean, I remember watching some of these actors and there was this one actor in Roger Corman's, he did a whole bunch of movies back in the 80s. And there was this one actor, I can't remember his name, and he would wear hair, and it was just so painfully obvious. Even you can think about some of the really good pieces, like you think about when Sean Connery would wear hair. Some of his hair was really good. Part
of the reason was, and Sean Connery was wearing it, from his first James Bond movie. He was always wearing hair. And when we were kids, we had no fucking clue. But part of it was, and he had pretty recessed sides, but part of it was they always kind of made it slightly recessed in the hairline. And he just had these incredible eyebrows and this really strong face. No one was really looking at it or looking for it. But if I watched today, I'm like, that wasn't really that great, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the bigger question is that you and I we've been looking at hairlines ever since we started losing our own, and so we have a keen eye to spot these things. And the question then becomes, okay, well, if we're insecure about the way we look, can we expect the same amount of scrutiny from the general public? And the answer is probably not.
No.
Otherwise, yeah.
There's no way. I talk about my hair loss all the time. That's what I do for a living. And when I meet people, I really have to show them the paint job. Like, I paint the back of my head. That's it. That's my reality. But no one understands it. No one is really scrutinizing it. And once they do, they're kind of like, oh, that's interesting. I never would have known. Like it was, like I was undercover or something. And guys, by the way, the phones just all lit up and then hung up. So call in 888-659-3727, and I'll take your call in a second.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Real quick, Spencer, I wanted to ask you about your situation in terms of your new loss. Do you think some of it might be due to the atmospheric conditions you're dealing with over there, or some of it might be due to the stress associated with lockdown?
Interesting that you say that, because I really haven't been. I'm no longer in Calabasas full time. I'm more here in Beverly Hills. I do not have my own outdoor space, and all of the outdoor spaces have been shut down. So I can't go to the pool. I'm not getting a tremendous amount of sunshine. I definitely think that it's possible that some of my vitamin D levels might be low. And also, I've been severely stressed about a lot of things, especially, well, obviously, I mean, kind of being locked in a glass cage here, trying to live your life and not being able to really socialize and have your normal activities. I think there could be a correlation for sure. But I have no problem. I got my medication, and I woke up today feeling like I always feel every day. No issues that I'm aware of, and I feel physically pretty well. But there's no doubt I've been under a tremendous amount of stress, just based on dealing with the people I love, family members. This business isn't the most relaxing environment, to tell you the truth. And there are times, like I said, I just want to throw it, just say, get the fuck out of it and move on. But if I do that, it's just, honestly, this sounds obnoxious. It's all going to fall to hell, man. There's really, the more that I look, there truly is no safe place that I know of to get the information you really need. If a guy if Joe goes away, forget about it. Then you get zero, Spencer Stevens is bringing a lot of great information to the UK. That's really powerful. But without the IHRS, without the Bald Truth, without what we're doing with GHLS, I can tell you that the powers that be are fighting the Global Hair Loss Summit. They do not want to see it happen. Isn't that crazy?
I'm not surprised. Again, gosh, we can look at the news and we can see how much secrecy is involved in so many aspects of our lives. Why not this? And I mean, I've spoken to some of the people on the IHRS list, and I've talked to them and seen their work, and I've been very impressed with their work. But even people on the list, and they all have their dark sides. A lot of it's just the nature of the business. It's very dog eat dog. There's only so much money that these people have to either promote themselves or to pay dues within specific organizations. They have to make choices. Sometimes they make the wrong choice. A certain doctor I was conversing with a number of months ago ended up getting sued by one of these promotion services because he didn't feel that they were doing enough, and he ended up getting sued. There are other doctors which
he got sued by a promotion service because he felt they weren't doing enough, or he just decided he didn't. We can talk offline which particular doctor and which particular service, but yeah, I mean, but again, there's a lot of that. Where all the bodies are buried, Spencer. And they're scattered everywhere, man. There's nobody who has put a scalpel to somebody's head in this field that doesn't have skeletons in their closet. That is the nature of this game. Now, that's the nature of cosmetic surgery in general. But this area of cosmetic surgery in particular has attracted a lot of people who, because there's really no true board certification. There's really no training that's actually needed to hang up a shingle and say, I'm a hair transplant specialist. Doesn't exist. It's not there. There's an organization called the International Society of Hair Restoration Surgery, and essentially, I hate to say it, but even though they go out there and they promote the fact that they are the authority in this field and that they're out there educating physicians, a large percentage of the physicians who proudly display that seal created the black market. And that is the truth. That is just the reality of the situation. The industry is where it is today because of many of the leaders, or so-called leaders of this field. They commoditized this early on, and they taught all these new turnkey black market guys how to do it. because that's just the reality of it. But as far as the IHRS is concerned, you know, like I tell all of you guys, we try to bring the guys who have the most consistent results together so you guys have at least a fighting chance to make a good decision. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, and everyone I've spoken to, basically the results I've seen, they're very honest about, you know, what they can promise and what it's going to cost and what to expect. And for the most part, I think that's pretty consistent. But I mean, just to drive it home, Mr. David DiMuzio had a video out recently where he was interviewing a tech for a particular surgeon, and this tech apparently was doing hair replacement in Pakistan when she was 14 years old, just to give you an idea.
Oh yeah. And the fact that the fact that that's actually allowed and the people that's out there on YouTube. So this person is still a technician in the industry.
Yeah, well, they're here now, and
yeah.
I think they're here, and they've gotten their proper certifications from what
of
from
course.
what I know. Otherwise,
100%
wouldn't be talking about it. But I mean, when she started out, you know.
Well, and that's important for everyone to know, and that's why I think that it's so invaluable. And it's actually good that I haven't seen the video. I don't really spend a lot of time, and I probably should. Joe's the one that usually tells me about this stuff. But the fact that she's out there and you can meet or see or learn about one of the people that's actually going to be performing your surgery besides the doctor, I see that as pretty valuable.
Yeah.
You know?
No, definitely.
And that's something that most people don't even think about. They look at the doctor's reputation, they look at their credentials, they look at their website, and they don't even talk about their technicians. And one of the reasons they don't talk about techs or PAs or nurses is they're afraid that their competitors are going to poach the good ones. Isn't that insane? So people can't even do their due diligence and know exactly who's operating on them because that information isn't readily available. Mordy, listen, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for calling. And I'm glad that I've done this impromptu show. I know that a lot of you guys were waiting, and Joe just bailed. What am I going to do?
Yeah. Well, have a wonderful 5781, and hopefully it's better than 5780.
Absolutely. You too, man. Shana Tova.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Shana Tova.
888-659-3727. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Spencer. It's Rick from Virginia. How you doing?
Rick, man, how are you?
Doing good. Been a long time since I called. Figure I'd check in with you since you're doing the impromptu show. Appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you checking in. What can I do for you, man?
Hey, so I wanted to, just give a positive finasteride update. Not a whole lot of those out there, so I want to do that, and then I got a quick question.
Yeah, let's hear it. Okay.
So just went over my 2-year mark anniversary on finasteride. Things have been going great. I'm 45, had kind of like a atypical, going from a normal 2 to 3, but like the 3A, where it's more just thinning in the back and really no recession in the front, but very slow. Took about 10 years or so to kind of get to that point. Found your show, you and Joe, and then wound up talking to you and turned me on to finasteride, and actually originally started through the Keeps, and then just switched over through my regular doctor.
That's right, I remember your story. So this was like just a couple of years ago, right?
2 years ago, yeah. 2 years ago in August, yeah. And it worked great. It did good. I was on the generic just for a couple months, and then just kind of got freaked out from your show and kind of listening to it and said, you know what, let me just switch to brand. So I've been on brand, and it was great. And then about a year into it, I started to have some libido issues. Nothing, wasn't messing around with the dosage or doing anything. I was doing the 5 milligram and quartering it. And it was not like, it was weird. I would have like a couple weeks where it would be like really low libido, and then a couple weeks where it would be really high. It was just kind of like sporadic.
Now, just to be clear for everyone who's listening, when you say libido, obviously I'm sure you know what libido means, but you're talking about your drive to have sex. Did it affect your ability at all?
No, not my ability. Yeah, it was just the drive. Really, the drive. Just like it would be a couple weeks where it would just literally, I would have like no interest. I guess if I tried, maybe I wouldn't be able to do because I had no interest.
I got to tell you, you could probably get a lot more shit done that way. just saying.
Well, yeah, I'm 45. I've got kids, teenagers, and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
But yeah. So it was definitely it was odd to me. It was something that I hadn't ever noticed before. And again, I am 45 at the time. I was 43, 44. So it could have been, sort of age related. And but I wound up talking to you guys about it and just titrating it. I basically, instead of quartering it and taking it every single day, I went to 4 times a week. And it only took about maybe a month, 3 to 4 weeks for it to sort of kind of level out. And it's been about a year since I've been doing that, and I haven't had any issues.
That's great. And you're still doing well on the drug as far as you feel it's really, you have a cessation of your hair loss.
Yeah, no, yeah. It from day one, it pretty much completely stopped it. And then I've had some minor regrowth in the crown. I mean, it was never like completely bald back there, and it started picking up. And I still kind of noticed, maybe, I don't know if it's just because my hair loss, the progression was so slow. So I lost it for it took a decade to really start to thin out. And it seems like it's slowly coming back, or maybe I won't get any more, but yeah, no regression of anything.
Well, that's actually kind of the way that it happens. And I have to say, if you heard the beginning of the show, I am now playing with my dosage of meds. I'm upping my dose. So essentially, instead of taking 1 5-milligram tablet once a week, which a lot of doctors always thought was crazy, but it seemed to maintain what I had, with a very slow progression for many, many years. So essentially now I'm taking 5 milligrams up to 2 every 5 days. And I think just yesterday was every 4 days, a 5-milligram dose. And, slow and steady, man. That's, sometimes you have to play with the dosage, whether it's as far as, people have been on it for a long time and they think, oh my God, this is not working for me anymore, and they want to jump directly to dutasteride. No. Right. You talk to your doctor about potentially upping your dosage. And in your case, you titrated to the point where you're having side effects. You're able to titrate to the point where you didn't have any more side effects, and you could still benefit from the drug. Most people are not aware of that. So I'm glad you did that, man.
Yeah, it was good. There was another, what I call Not the Real Hair Loss show, the Australian guys. I don't know. Have you seen their show?
Oh, yeah. Knudsen and Dr. V. What's his last name? Why can't I remember his last name?
The Kendrick or some kind of long thing.
I have to tell you that, and I've told him this before, I'm glad they're doing what they're doing. I think that, frankly, listen, here's the reality of it. Any physician who takes the time to do this is looking for street cred online, and obviously for business. But the truth is, they are offering a real service as opposed to all the other shit that I see online. So right. you can absolutely learn a lot from these guys, and it's a good broadcast.
Yeah, they've got some good stuff in there. One of the things that was interesting, when we started talking about the dosage and those sort of things, is where they talked about what they've seen in their practice is sometimes they have some folks that are on finasteride and can be on it for years, and just the way, I guess, I don't know, where the half-life or something, the way it works, it builds up in your system. Sometimes for some people, it could build up for so long and start to see kind of like mild side effects, and then they recommend people that do exactly that, either come off it for a little bit, just kind of let it sort of empty out in the system a little bit, and they said they've seen really good success with that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, that's the type of information that you really don't hear about. And that's why I said, these guys, I think they're doing a really great job. I have to say, they are the only guys in this entire industry, physicians, in my estimation, who actually provide a tremendous service online to people. So it's called what? The Hair Loss Show, right?
Yeah, the Hair Loss Show.
Yeah, good for them, man. And I'll pimp it out on this broadcast because I think they're doing a great job.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They got good info on there. So do you think you would, I mean, I know you're messing around with your dose and just kind of like working it in now. Is dutasteride on your agenda anywhere if you can't get the dosage right? Is that something you think you might, or you're not at that point?
100%. 100%. I mean, I would get to the point where I up the dose even up to 5 milligrams a day because I've taken it. But the last time I took it at 5 milligrams a day I was 29 years old. So I would slowly raise my dosage and see what happens. But, the thing is, every time you raise your dosage, you have to wait a while. Like, is this
Right.
enough? You know, if you're going through a telogen effluvium, you know, you have to give it 2 months or 3 months, see what happens. You know, you can't just say, oh, you can't panic and all of a sudden, you know, up your dose to, 5 milligrams a day, which a lot of people would, especially, if they have access to it or they've been on it for as long as I have. So, yeah.
I find the other thing,
go ahead,
too, is pictures or like, if you have like a significant other, a spouse or anything, because sometimes I feel like we get so into our own heads and like look so close, and you need to take a step back. And I found the easiest way for me to sort of really track my progression or how, well it's maintaining those things, especially when I first got on it, was literally to just try to not look at it all the time, but just like once a week, same lighting, same, scenario, take a picture or have my wife look at it or those sort of things. Because otherwise I would go crazy trying to figure out, am I thinning a little bit more? Is it growing a little more? I can't tell,
Oh no, I believe me, and I've been going through this for so long, and yeah, I have someone who in my life who will be brutally honest. But when you're seeing more hair than usual, especially if this hasn't happened in a while, there's something happening. And the point is, you want to try to get to the point again where I'm back at baseline as far as my normal as far as the amount of hair that I see after I blow dry or comb or shower.
Right.
And I think that's really possible. Listen, I've been a tremendous responder for many, many years. And even though it's progressed very slowly, there's no doubt. I mean, I started painting maybe 12, 14 years ago using some sort of topic or Dermatch or whatever it is. And I've noticed that I've had to slowly use more. And I was okay with that. As long as it's a slow progression, listen, if I can make it till 65, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Right.
And that's it. But
do you think,
go ahead.
Do you think there's any truth to, I've heard that the hair that people grow back from finasteride. So let's say you've had, obviously, let's say someone's like a Norwood 3 or 4, and they're like a super good responder to finasteride, and these pictures that you see even on some of the doctors' websites and things where they show folks who just like, man, this guy really had a lot of comeback, if you will, on the hair. I've heard people say that that's like, if people are going to regress, like at some point, that's the hair that you lose, and sometimes that would be the baseline you come back to. Have you heard that? Have you ever heard anything like that?
You mean they lose what they saved?
Yeah, exactly.
Or what they've grown from the medication. They get
all finasteride, so they grow a little bit more. Maybe that lasts for 5, 10, 15 years or something, and then for whatever reason, in certain people, if it starts to fade, it will fade back to that point. It won't get any worse, but like what they grew back will go away. Have you heard or seen anything?
Yeah, that's pretty common, but essentially what happens is the process just kind of begins again. So yeah, you will first most likely lose what you noticed initially from getting on the drug, like maybe some crown growth, thickening of your existing hair, just more manageable, and you will get back to that baseline at some point, but it will continue to progress. So it's not like you just go back to baseline and then you're there for another 10 years. You go back to baseline and you just continue from where you were able to interrupt that process.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. That makes sense.
So, and look, man, I mean, this is the nature of this game, and I get it. I've been dealing with it for 30 years. A little bit of a jump start. I just noticed a little bit more change recently, and I'm pretty confident that medication or playing with the dosage will help. And if it doesn't, then all these guys are just like, just go bald draw. I'm like, whatever. I'll do whatever makes me feel good. Whether it's wearing hair, whether I decide to get a hair transplant, 10 years down the road or 5 years down the road, or if I decide to do any other treatments, I'll let all you guys know.
Speaking of wearing hair, there are some crazy videos for partial, like barber videos, where there's some of these barbers now that are specializing in like partials, and it is amazing the stuff I guess you got to go back to this guy like every 3 weeks or month or something, because you got this thing glued on your head, but it's like completely. Like for someone like that, like you and I, in a situation where the front is good and it's kind of like the crown is sort of the issue, man. Some of these crown pieces that these guys get put in.
Dude, you may not have never heard this, but I have ordered this stuff. I have tried this stuff, and that's why I know I could tell Mordy, even though I never had to wear an entire thing, you can cut a small yarmulke out, and if it's placed well and the color match is right, it's like no one in the world would ever know.
You could never tell. There's videos on it. I mean, TV. These guys are amazing on what they can do with these little yarmulke things, man.
Yeah, but you can you can actually do it yourself. The thing is, if you decide to ever wear hair, and I hope that it doesn't come to that point, because it's obviously it's a process, it's a pain in the ass. That's something you have to share with people. You're married and stuff, and I'm sure your wife wouldn't care, but it's a process, and it's about maintenance. But if you ever do decide, don't feel that you're dependent on a supplier, or maybe you will be dependent on certain suppliers, but dependent on someone to provide you service every few weeks or maintenance.
Or whatever.
You have to maintain it yourself. If you depend on someone, if you can leave that shit on your head for the 6 weeks they claim that you can leave it on, it's not good, man. It's not good for your health. There's all types of issues with bacteria, smell, all kinds of stuff no one tells you about. You got to retack that stuff. The glue gets loose. So a lot of people do. They go to places like the Hair Club, which has been around forever, and they're not necessarily told this information. They're not provided with this really needed information before they make that purchase and decide to have their head shaved and have an entire wig put on their head. And then they realize, wait a second, after 3 weeks, this stuff's like the top is flipping up. It doesn't look as natural. What's going on? And they feel like they're stuck in this club. If you're going to wear hair, you got to learn how to do that shit yourself.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's almost intuitive, I guess, if you think about it. I mean, how are you going to leave, a hat on your head completely covered for 6 weeks and never, lift it up and do anything in there?
It seems like it's intuitive, but the sad part is it's all about marketing. We want to believe, man. We want to, wait a second, you mean I can go swimming again and hang off the back of a boat with these chicks and have my hair blowing in the wind? We want to believe. That's why it's so easy for these
Those are good commercials that they have, or that they did have back in the day. Those were crazy commercials.
They still have them in a sense. And I have to tell you, back in 1986 or 87, back in 1987, when I would see these commercials, I was like, what the fuck is this club about? I want to check this out. I knew Cy Sperling, him and I had, I've had him on the program, years after, this is after he already retired and was kind of coming back into the game, and, let him rest in peace. And he told me some really interesting things. And he, just the way that he developed that system, he said, listen, he knew that no one would want to wear a wig. And he knew that if he called to the system and made it look like it was part of this person, then he would be able to really grow something. And said, people didn't want to wear toupees, and that's what everyone thought.
Right. Well, that was like their shtick, right? The guy would grab their head and say, "This is my hair. This is pull on it," and clearly it wasn't. You could just tell it didn't look quite 100% right. But
the reason is a lot of these guys. It's funny. There's a guy that he used to actually he used to do ads for the Hair Club. And he was a model, and now he's doing ads he's working with Headblade. He decided to shave his head after years of wearing hair. You would recognize this guy. And, it's amazing when you hear about the process and what this person went through. As a young person, it wasn't easy. And then you have a guy like last week, the guy from Australia who called in talking about his experience wearing hair. And I guess it was easier for him because he was very open about it. So
that guy was just it's part of his personality. I mean, that guy just has an amazing personality. You could tell, that guy charmed the pants off of just like anybody, right? And just really didn't care, and great attitude. Some people are just so devastated by it that I don't know if they ever get, emotionally to that point,
I would say that he is the anomaly for sure. He is on the other side of the spectrum. This guy is the guy that everyone hopes to be. If you were going bald and you have a bad hair transplant and you could have that kind of an attitude, you fucking won.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, man. Well, listen, do you have anything else you want to add or any questions?
One quick question. So my only issue that I really have right now with my hair, and I've mentioned it a couple times before, whatever. So I've got retrograde alopecia, not on the sides, but the back.
Yeah.
That I keep my hair short. I mean, I can wear it, it's about like an inch or two on top, and I do like the bald kind of fade sort of thing. But my hair is jet black, and my skin is pretty fair. And I mean, the retrograde is high in the back, and as long as I, do a bald fade back there and then kind of blend it in with the rest of my hair, it's fine. But I mean, I can't go 5 days and not like, kind of blend it in. And I've kind of learned how to sort of do it myself, and those sort of things. But, by all means, I'd rather just have that than anything else. I wanted to get your sort of thoughts on like maybe, trichopigmentation, or maybe trying something back there to just help with the blend back there.
Here's the thing: when you have retrograde alopecia, and I know somebody who has that, and he has to kind of like create a little bit of a fade as well. He's been on finasteride he's my age, so a good friend of mine, finasteride for at least 15 years, and he saved a lot of hair. I mean, the guy, if you were to see him, he's also tall. He looks like a very youthful guy for his age with a full head of hair. But if he lets it grow out on the sides too much, it's thinning around his ears, and it kind of looks a little patchy. I would never advise this guy, and this is a guy that I've known my entire life, to have any type of trichopigmentation or SMP to try to camouflage his retrograde alopecia. It just will not really work. It really depends on how close you shave it, but if you just want to kind of create a blend where you don't have to keep it as tight as normal, it just doesn't look natural. Like you think you want to kind of blend in and kind of like create less of a contrast between the skin and your hair. With trichopigmentation, it doesn't really work, even though that is sometimes what's being sold with SMP and tricho. I think you'd be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I know there's no way to get like 3D, right? Clearly it's 2D. It's just my hair's so, I'm averaging kind of weight. I think I'm 45. I'm like, when is my hair going to start going gray? And then I think from that point, it probably wouldn't bother me as much, but my hair's like jet black, and like literally 2 or 3 days worth of growth, you can see like the clear line of demarcation like right away.
Yeah, if you're able to take care of it without getting anything done, then I would say just keep doing what you're doing, because even though it will eventually fade, I have a feeling that you would be disappointed. Like how short, when you cut it, how is it, like to the skin almost? Or
I have to, yeah, in the back. Yeah, I start from the skin and then I like blend it up into like a number one, from skin to number one. And it's only because it's so high. I mean, it's literally like the thin sort of the bald area. If you just kind of like from like it's above the bottom of my ear.
Yeah,
you're just kind of giving like So I mean, it's crazy looking if I don't do that.
I mean, I have to say that if you do it, if you decide to have tricho or SMP, I mean, if you were disappointed with it, how would you feel? I mean, if it wasn't what you expected or what they promised, how would you feel? Even though it would fade in a year or two.
Yeah. I guess if it looked crazy, I mean, if it literally looked like I had a weird, like, boxy looking, like, tattoo or something on the back of my head or something, like, yeah, I mean, I guess that would be, then I would be kicking myself in the ass thinking, like, well, I would rather just be shaving my head.
Yeah, then don't do it, man, because it really could look that way.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Good advice, sir.
Okay.
As always.
Thank you so much for the call, man.
Yeah, thanks,
All
guys.
right. Be well.
Best of luck to you, man.
Take care. Thanks a lot. Bye. Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. We have lines open now. There's no one on hold. I will stick around for a little bit while longer if we get calls. That's 888-659-3727. Like the guy is saying in the chat, yeah, I mean, people think that SMP is the answer because that's the way it's sold. Not everybody's a candidate for any of this shit. This can work. Trichopigmentation can work really well if you're the right candidate who understands its limitations, who's choosing to shave their head, create a shadow of hair. Great. As an underground, which is a lot of times the way that it's sold, honestly, when I see images, maybe it could look okay. Anyone I've ever seen it done in person on anyone I've seen in person who's had it done just to act as underground, it really depends. If they have a lot of hair, then yeah, it could be okay. But I wouldn't do it. I wear paint on the back of my head. I wear Derm Match. That's the brand that I wear. And there's no way that trichopigmentation or SMP could replace my ability to create that illusion. So I'd rather just take the time to paint. 888-659-3727. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Omer. I'm calling from Israel.
Hey, Omar, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you.
Is it Omar or Homer?
Omer.
Omer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Happy New Year, man.
Thank you. Shana Tova.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, I'm considering a hair transplant. I'm about Norwood 4 or 5. I consulted with a few well-known doctors. They told me about 5,000 grafts in order to, make my scalp full.
How well known? Tell me some guys that you've consulted with.
Can I share names?
Yeah,
or,
sure, absolutely.
For example, Hassan and Wong, they told me I can do either FUE, FUT, 5,000 grafts. Dr. Diep, for example, told me he can do about 3,500.
Okay.
Some, like Dr. Bloxom, told me he can do about 3,000.
And he wants to do a strip on you.
I spoke. Dr. Bloxom, yes, but this is another thing. I'm really confused. Like, my preference is to have FUE, but I know maybe it's not good for me if I want to manage my donor correctly. So this is another dilemma I have in choosing, the right doctor.
Let me ask you a question. Right you may have told me. How old are you?
35.
35. And give me your estimated Norwood pattern again. I know you just told me, but I forgot already.
About 4 or 5.
Okay.
I in my estimation, I'm 4. I also spoke with eugenics that they told me 5.
5,000. They said you're 5.
My Norwood scale, I mean.
Okay, so here's the thing. I was speaking to a very well-known physician. I'm going to leave him nameless right now because he doesn't necessarily want to talk about this now. But we were talking about the reality of assessing a patient and what they really should know and what should be the standard of care as far as providing people with graft numbers. Now, the first thing is you're 35 years old and you are a Norwood Class 5. With your current donor hair, well, let me ask you this question before I finish this statement. Are you currently taking medication?
Yeah, I am for the last, I think, 15 years.
15 years.
Branded Propecia, but it helped me in some degree, but, the hair loss has progressed, so I don't know.
Okay, well, here's the thing. So you've been on finasteride for 15 years. You've been battling this since you were 20 years old.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So the likelihood of you progressing to a Norwood 7 is very high. And the likelihood of your donor hair that's going to be moved via FUE, for instance, especially those large numbers of miniaturizing, if medication doesn't work for you or doesn't work well for you, that likelihood is high as well. So if you have those many hairs moved, what's going to happen is if you do it via FUE, what's most likely to happen is in time, as you continue to progress, when you're 45 or 50 or 60 years old, the donor area and the scarring in the donor region will become more visible, or at least a moth-eaten effect will become. It will start to become more apparent. If you decide to have a strip surgery, there is a chance that they can move a decent number of grafts, 3,000, 3,500. In some cases, they can move more with a good strip. I know that Hassan and Wong are kind of known for that. But if you if you do that by a strip, and you want to move a lot of grafts, you will have a scar that goes from over one ear, like if you're looking literally towards your temple points, to the other side. Now, if you are okay and you don't progress to the point where your donor area thins a lot, you can get away with that. But if it does, then you're going to have a visible scar. Now, also the downside of moving those many grafts is what happens if things don't work out? Then you've already gone through the process of moving 5,000 grafts, and if it doesn't grow or if you have a complication, you're pretty much fucked. So, I would say talk to the physicians, whoever you're speaking with, all of them, and, maybe take it in stages if that's something that you can deal with. But this is a long-term process. Every transplant you have is going to take a minimum of a year for you to see the final result.
I know. So basically, I told each one of them that my goal is to have one surgery, a mega session, and I know I probably going to need more surgeries down the line, but at least to try to cover as much as possible in one operation. So.
Let me ask you this. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Ask your question.
No, I wanted to ask if, in your opinion, it's better to start with smaller operation like 200, 500, 3,000, to start and see how it goes, then do another one.
Well, the way how it goes, the way that I feel is this. First of all, every time you're cut, there's a possibility of complications. So if you decide to have strip surgery, for instance, and I gotta I'm telling you the real deal, and then you have to make your decision. But if you decide to get a strip surgery, for instance, and they remove a strip of tissue, and they're able to say you get a 2,500 graft estimate out of that tissue, and you move that many grafts. If everything goes well, then you could always go in and get another strip. However, every time you have that done, you're changing the integrity of your scalp. As you change the integrity of your scalp, especially if you are progressing to a Norwood 6 or 7, the donor region gets smaller and the balding area is stretched down, and the nape of your neck to some degree could be moved as well. It's unlikely, especially after only 2, but that's a possibility. So that's one of the philosophies behind doing it one and done, because you have one big strip, you get as many grafts as possible, and then they can go in and cherry pick later with FUE. The downside of that is if it doesn't work, or if you have some complication, or if for some reason your physiology doesn't take well to it, you've lost all that tissue. You've had this procedure, and or for instance, if the surgery is just not great. Now you're thinking about going to great doctors, so it's less likely. You're mitigating your potential for complications, so that's good. But if you do have a complication, you are royally fucked at 5,000 grafts.
I see. And if I may ask you another question, also by choosing either FUE or FUT, is it as far as I know or understand? If I do FUT, the strip method, I should have more grafts down the line. Is that still true?
You probably, if you are progressed to this point at the age of 35, 4,000 grafts will make even if it's FUE, FUT rather, 4,000 or 5,000 grafts will make a nice dent. It'll change your appearance significantly, but it'll never be what you really thought it's going to be. That's just the way that it is. I've never known anyone who just had one hair transplant and was satisfied.
Because in my opinion, if if I can do, for example, more density in the front or even more aggressive hairline, if I have more grafts with strip surgery, then I can bear this, scar. But if I don't gain anything, then it doesn't worth it, in my opinion.
Well, no. I mean, if you don't gain anything, none of it's worth it. That's the thing. I mean, you're going to be scarred no matter what. If they moved 4,000 grafts via FUE, your entire donor area is going to have punctate wounds that will scar. Now, will they be visible? I mean, if you're going to people who, and it sounds like you are, who have really good technicians, who understand how to manage donor areas well, who have been doing this for a long period of time, you're probably not going to see it initially, which is great. But in time, you can. So the reason I'm being so straightforward, obviously I always am, but you're only 35 years old and you've progressed to this point, and you've been holding it off with the use of finasteride since you were 20, but you still progress. That means you have aggressive male pattern baldness. Let me ask you this question, and this may be off the table, but have you tried to, and again, for me, the reason I still paint my head and still take medication at 55 years old and am a little bummed that I'm starting to deal with a little bit more hair loss again is because for me, this was off the table. But would you consider, and I'm not saying it's off the table for the rest of my life, but we'll see, but would you consider shaving your head?
Yeah. No, this is out of question. I always wear a hat, and the topic, even if it looks ridiculous, I prefer to look ridiculous than be seen bald. I tell you the truth. I cannot be seen bald. I cannot bear it.
It's interesting.
Out of question.
And that is an interesting, a lot of people would say, dude, you have to accept it, this and that. I understand it,
No, sorry, I can't.
Yeah, this
cannot.
isn't just a show about, and a lot of people will do that. They'll kind of bully you into acceptance. If you are not equipped to deal with it, as I was not, and I'm still really not, but, you have to figure out what your options are. Now, would you ever consider wearing hair at some point if things didn't go well with the transplant?
If I don't have any choice, I prefer not to. It will feel like a kind of a fake, but if I don't have any other choice, so I will consider it.
Okay. So the fact that you're willing to consider it and the fact that you've gone to see some really good doctors or have had consults at least, and they're giving you an assessment, just know that it's possible that the entire transplant can fail. It's also possible and probable that you're going to need more work done sometime down the line, maybe sooner rather than later. We don't know. You will absolutely be scarred no matter what you do. You can get
but
you can get more.
I prefer the FUE scarring than the strip. It looks. I prefer that scar than the strip scar.
And you know what? That's what a lot of people think until they have a diminished donor area, or they start to go through a telogen effluvium after the surgery, and all of a sudden they have thousands of holes in the back of their head. And they realize maybe that strip would have been covered even with a small amount of hair that you had left in your donor. So that's a serious consideration. Let me tell you something. FUE is not new. FUE has been around for well over 20 years. It's being promoted as state-of-the-art. But the truth is, what is state-of-the-art is, the ability for the right physician and the right team to manage your expectations, to manage your donor well, and to use all the tools that are necessary in their toolbox to give you the best possible outcome. And that may be a hybrid of FUE and FUT. But in order to move the most hair, you have to have an FUT surgery at some point in your life. So if you need 7,000 or 8,000 grafts, which a lot of people don't even have, but if you need, say, 6,000 or 7,000 grafts to be moved, really the most effective way would be a hybrid. At minimum of one strip with a lot of grafts moved, and then cherry-picked FUE. But if you're committed...
Can I mention something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I spoke with Hassan and Wong. How you call it? I call it a salesperson.
Yeah,
and
that's what they are.
He
Yeah.
told me it. Yeah. So a patient advisor is the term they use.
Patient advisor anywhere, even if they're in the IHS. Patient advisor means they sell hair transplants.
True.
Yeah.
This is true. Anyway, they told me that my donor looks very good. I don't know, like, how can they determine, because no one, they didn't check, with the microscope. So anyway, this is what he told me. He told me they believe they can extract 5,000. They can do FUE, which is a lot for FUE. It's amazed me that they can do it. And then I asked him, will I have enough donor for future surgeries? Because in my opinion, I'm going to need it. So I want to manage my donor properly. So he told me, yes, Dr. Hassan believes that you should have additional 4,000 grafts left, but the second surgery might be FUT.
Okay, so here's the thing, just to let you know, and there are doctors who are willing to do FUE first and then FUT. But once you decide to have FUE initially, you have to realize that the strip, the hair that's left, when they take that hair-bearing scalp out of the back of your head, it's going to have hundreds of maybe 1,000 or so punctate wounds as well. The adjacent hair to those wounds could be slightly damaged. They may still be growing, but they may not be as robust as they once were. Every time you go in there, it's possible you're going to clip a hair. It's possible you're going to cause some sort of potential peripheral damage to hair that's growing around the hair that's removed. So it's possible that you're not going to have the robust strip. Well, you won't, that you would have if you had the strip done first. And that's a piece of knowledge and information that you need to have going into this. So if you think that you're going to have a transplant and you can live, if everything goes well, and it's a perfect storm, you can live with the improvement that 5,000 grafts is going to give you, and that can give you another 10 years of happiness, then it may be of value to you. That's, that's something you have to weigh. That, okay, I have this 10 years. Even if I have to deal with a hairpiece 10 years down the line, I'm willing to take that risk. Then you make a better candidate, knowing that these are all possibilities. I would say that Hassan Wong has good patient advisors or salespeople. I don't know if you spoke to Doug or who you spoke to, but
Doug.
These guys have been around for a long time. They kind of understand what Victor or Jerry are capable of doing and what their staff is capable of doing. Now, you have to also understand when you go to Hassan Wong that you have an entire team working on you and extracting grafts. And so it's not just Victor Hassan sitting there or Jerry Wong sitting there removing every graft. But I would say that based on everything that I've seen since they've been doing FUE, they're doing a good job. It's
really
very consistent.
Mega Session FUE, I didn't know it exists.
The only reason it exists,
that much.
The only reason that it exists is because they have trained their team to the point where they're able to make it happen. You have a lot of hands working on you. But with that said, I'm not particularly a fan of Mega Session FUE because because of the time that it takes, even if you're using multiple people in the process, and they all have an equal skill set, you still have a greater chance of losing more grafts. You still have a greater chance of not being as happy as you would if you moved 5,000 by a strip. And that's a lot, 5,000 in one strip. So, I mean, there's a lot that you want. We all want a full head of hair. We all want one and done, but we have to also think about long-term possible complications and even the short-term stuff. So if you can't be bald, if you're willing to wear a hairpiece and live with possibly being scarred or having a disappointed hair transplant, you make a better candidate psychologically because you know that you are willing to go that route. There's a lot of guys who never would consider wearing a hairpiece. They have surgery. They're fucked up. They're scarred for life, and they feel there's no way out. So as long as you have an exit strategy, a plan B, then you probably make a better candidate.
What about SMP, the scar? Even the strip one, I've seen on YouTube some amazing results.
Yeah, you're not going to see the bad results on YouTube unless it's somebody that's putting up their own channel. So yes, it can be great, but you never know how SMP or trichopigmentation is going to react in scarred skin.
In the future, you mean?
Well, forget about the future. I'm talking about even immediately. Some people will just absorb it. Sometimes they try to create those tattooed follicles or put those dots in your scar tissue, and they just bleed essentially, and they turn into like just blobs. And sometimes it works out perfectly well. So there are no, there's always a possibility you're going to get fucked up. If you can deal with that and you're willing to risk that, and you say, okay, you know what, I can live my life this way. If I have to wear hair or if I have a bad scar, I still want to take this risk. Then that's your choice, and at least you're doing your due diligence as far as the clinics that you're considering, and that's a big step.
As you and Joe once said, you can never know, even with good clinics. I think you had, like 2 weeks ago, some patient that was not happy with, I think it was Dr. Hassan.
Yeah.
Things can happen.
There are people walking the streets right now who are living their lives across this world who have gone to the best physicians, some of the best physicians in this field, and they believe that their lives have been ruined. That is the nature of any cosmetic surgery. There are people out there who've gotten chin augmentation or whatever, and they're fucked up. They have nerve damage. That is just the nature of cosmetic surgery. And sadly, in general, most people who are online talking about it, they're not going to tell you the real possibilities that are out there as far as the downsides. They'll kind of gloss over the possible complications, but they don't emphasize how real they can be.
I understand.
And I don't mean to bum you out, but I want to just make sure you listen to the show. So I just want to make sure that you have all of your facts and all of the data you need to put into your equation so that you can make the best decision for you.
May I ask you again? I'm not sure I got I understood your answer to my question. If I do FUT, will I have more grafts left down the line than if I do only FUE? Or let's say if I do both, like you mentioned, I might need.
Well, here's the thing. I want you to think of it this way. If you do FUE, they essentially, in order to make it look like you haven't had surgery, what do? They stagger the punctate wounds. They try to go a millimeter or more apart, and they take the hair from all over your donor area. And sadly, a lot of times what happens is there used to be something called a safe zone. That doesn't seem to exist anymore when you're dealing with larger FUE procedures, because they go into, in general, in order to not have any visible scarring or a moth-eaten effect, they have to go above and below what used to be known as the safe zone, which is usually the zone that's not as affected by DHT. So a certain percentage of your grafts, if you have a 5,000 graft FUE procedure, a certain percentage of those grafts are probably going to be susceptible to miniaturization.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go in and you want
do it.
Say that again?
Why they do it if they are great doctors? why they do
That's
it
a good,
if they know it's not the safe zone.
That's a good question. And I would say that most clinics will tell you that if we do decide to do all this, it's possible that in your particular case, depending on your pattern of hair loss, that if you progress significantly, that some of the hair can miniaturize. Now, you may not. If you stay at a Norwood 5 or 6, you may be fine. But if you go down to a 7, or if you become a diffuse 7, then that hair is going to...
I'm not sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure. You know, all the clinics, when I initially submitted my application, they ask you about your father's side, your mother's side, your grandfather's, both sides. I told them the worst in my family history is Norwood 6, and you know, so, and between my uncles, some of them are Norwood 4, 5. So, you know, they told me, okay, you're going to be either 4 to 6. This is your range, what you can become.
I'm going to be completely candid again. That is a complete guess. That is a educated guess.
Yeah.
And many times that's accurate, but no one knows for sure. No one could say for sure you're going to stop at a Norwood 6. No one knows. You've been fighting this since you're 20 years old. Now, your chances are probably pretty high that you're going to follow in your ancestors and your lineage, your family's footsteps. So they're probably right about that, but you just don't know. My whole thing is I just want you to be 100% prepared. You may be ecstatic for the next decade of your life, and then we may have something that's hopefully going to be able to help you even more down the line. But if you're not prepared for the worst, my whole thing is hope for the best, always prepare for the worst. And if you're prepared for the worst, at the very least...
Cannot,
go ahead.
Yeah, so sometimes you cannot prepare for the worst. You what can you do?
Here's the thing. It's going to suck if the worst thing happens.
Yeah.
But at least you were made aware of it. At least you're not going in there blind and being hit in the back of the head, like with a brick and saying, I had no idea that this can possibly happen. It's still going to suck as bad, but at least you know that it's a possibility and you could act accordingly.
Also, in your opinion, what surgery shall I start? Like, I never had any surgeries done. Do you think it's smarter to start with FUT, with FUE, like considering my quite large baldness?
That's a tough one. Like I told you, if FUE works the way that you want it to work, and you're satisfied with the hair, with a recreated hairline, you're willing to wear Topic and stuff, and you really are adverse to having a strip scar, then for you, FUE is going to be the way to go. But the only way to get the absolute most hair moved on an advanced Norwood pattern would be a hybrid of both. And if you were to have a choice, you would probably want to do strip first in order to get the most out of that strip. However, it doesn't mean that you can't get a strip afterwards. But if you are thinking about having a strip at any point in your life, think about what the difference is in timing. If you think that's a possibility, you have to put that into the equation too, as far as where you go for your first surgery, as far as FUE or FUT. And I wish I can give you a definitive answer and say you should do FUT first and then FUE. I can't. I can't do that because all I can do is give you the information that I know, the truth that I know, and let you make your own decision. Everything has its pros and its cons.
I understand. For example, I see a lot of Dr. Speller's videos, and he says if you always start with FUT, this way the upper side, the lower side is virgin, so you can harvest more grafts.
Yeah,
which sounds very logical to me.
It is logical. It's very logical. But there are people out there who are, They may do well enough on FUE with FUE where they don't need another surgery, and then they regret having that scar. But what Dr. Feller said was absolutely correct. If you want 100% virgin area to go back into to cherry pick for FUE grafts, the only way to do that is to have your first surgery via FUT.
I see. And is it true that nowadays there is like significantly how do you say it? Sorry for my is there
Look, if I could speak Hebrew to a fraction of how you speak English, I'd be pretty happy.
No, I ask what is the difference in the yield between FUE and FUT? I know in the past they used to say 30%. Now some doctors tells me 10%. Other ones say 2-3%.
Now you say what percentage
per
what percentage of people are getting FUE, or what percentage of physicians?
No. The yield, the growth rate.
Nobody knows. I could tell you that anybody that puts that growth rate down on their website has no fucking real clue. It's a guesstimate.
This is what I think as well, but they say it's only 10% between my FUE results and my FUT results.
Yeah,
some tells me 2%, 3%. How can they know?
I would say that almost everybody in this field stretches reality when it comes to that. Now, there are some that take a little bit more care, and they've done some study in their practice, but they haven't studied every single FUE versus every single FUT. There's no way that they can know an exact percentage. So the way that they judge is they kind of take a overall look at how their FUE surgery compares to their FUT surgery with the same number of grafts, but they're still not really counting in general. So to give a percentage like that, I think is unfair. I will say this. The experience of physicians and technicians and, physicians' assistants and nurses when it comes to FUE extraction is vast now. It's come a long way. So I would say that based on the experience and the number of surgeries a lot of these clinics are performing, their extraction rates are much lower than they were 15 years ago. I mean, I'm sorry, their transection rates.
I see. So
I'll give you an example. Like Mark Dower, who's right here across the street from me. There was a point where he believed that strip was the way to go in general as far as getting more yield. And he's changed his tune since he's been seeing more and more of his patients after performing FUE for a long period of time. And now he's saying it's pretty close. He thinks it's almost identical, but he can't tell you for sure because he's not counting every graft.
I think I know which doctor you refer to. I think I had a consultation with him this week.
Yeah, and how that consultation go?
Fine. I was actually I spoke with the patient advisor, not with the doctor, and he told me they only do now FUE, which surprised me. Like he told me, we see great results only with FUE. We see no why bother with FUT if we have the same results only with FUE.
Well, I would say that if you're talking about Dr. Mark Dower in Century City,
no.
Oh, you're not. Who are you talking?
No, somebody else.
Who's that?
Dr. Rahal.
Oh, Dr. Rahal. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
I would say that. They're being pretty candid. I mean, I definitely believe that Rahal certainly believes that his FUE results match his FUT results. But I do believe the good thing about going to a guy like Rahal is if he went in there and said, you know what, it's going to be difficult to get these grafts out, we're going to have to go FUT, you're going to have that option because he has the infrastructure and the technicians and the staff to make that happen. I'm a fan of going to someone who knows how to do both procedures well.
Yeah, this is what I know as well. So I was very surprised that they told me that they only do FUE now.
Well, let's put it this way. any physician in any form of cosmetic surgery goes where the market goes, and the market is with FUE. So if 98% of his patients who are doing consults really just want FUE and they believe that they could perform it well, that's what they're going to market. That's what they're going to sell.
Yeah.
This is like.
May I ask you? Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm saying it's. I hate to compare it to like selling cars, but the truth of the matter is, it's like any other business. People pay what the market will bear, or so people charge what the market will bear, and the type of procedures are what the market wants. So why is everybody doing PRP now? And now PRP with exosomes? Because it's been proven that the market wants this, and there are people who get good results. So everyone jumps on it, whether they know what they're doing or not. Same happened with FUE.
Yeah. I also spoke with eugenics, which they told me they will extract, like 2,000 to 3,000 grafts from my back, and another 2,000 from my beard. Do you think, in my opinion, the hair characteristics, is different between the beard and the scalp? So, nevertheless, I see their results on YouTube, and it looks amazing. They have a lot of Norwood 6, Norwood 7 guys.
I have to tell you, they do really good work. They're really good doctors, but you're only going to see their good results on YouTube. You got to really.
But they have a lot of them.
Yeah, they do a lot of surgery and they have a lot of good results. But when people always say, "I see a lot of good results," that's great. You want to see a lot of good results, but for every 20 great results, there's one person whose beard hair didn't work out for them. Maybe the number's greater. Maybe for every 50 results, good results.
Yeah.
I can't give you an exact percentage, but here's my belief. I believe that your beard should be reserved as a last resort. But look, I'm not a fucking doctor. What do I know?
Because in my opinion, I say, okay, I will still keep my scalp. I will not damage it. Use a lot of grafts. I will keep something for the future, and I don't care if I have less hair in my beard. Really, for me, I don't care about this. Maybe like this, I can do a bigger surgery without damaging my scalp. But the question again is, like you said, if it's you can never expect the results, how it's going to be.
Well, let's put it this way, and then I'm gonna take another call. But you can gauge your possibilities. You can mitigate the possibility of being fucked up by doing the research that you're doing, listening to the program, going to the doctors or consulting with the physicians that you already have. You've already mitigated your chances of having a bad outcome considerably.
Yeah.
So, I can't see you doing any more due diligence than you're doing right now. The only thing that you should be doing is continuing to take a deep breath and keep researching. But eventually, if you are absolutely going in this direction, there's only so much research you can do. You are in the right direction. Yeah. You've learned a lot, and now you're armed with a lot of great information. But ultimately, you have to pull that trigger. I just spit in my microphone and make that decision on who you're going to go with, where you're going to go, and what type of surgery you're going to have. But it kind of seems like you have a good base of knowledge. So
thanks.
Listen, man.
May I ask you one last question?
Sure, one last question. Why not? And you know what? The guys in the chat room are telling me to cut you off. I want to just say this. We're all in this together, people. We are all suffering in our own way when it comes to hair loss. And this is one of your fellow brethren. So why would I cut this guy's call off? He needs some help. Sorry, caller. Just want to let you know. Everyone's so impatient, The show is here for you guys to get.
This is our.
It's life or death for some people.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My question is, what do you think about forehead reduction surgery? In order to reduce the amount of grafts you need for a surgery.
I don't think it's a great idea. And the truth of the matter is, you're already in word five. I mean, to have forehead reduction surgery, to move it just skin to skin, which is going to be what's happening eventually, it's not going to work out for you, dude. You have
but then, for example, in the front, I will need less grafts to cover this balding area. So I save grafts.
No, it's not going to work. You're also stretching out your scalp. It's a bad idea, dude. I'm just telling you, that is like not good. It's like you might as well just say, why don't I just get a hair flap?
Yeah, I understand.
All right, dude, listen, I wish you the best of luck.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
You got it. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. I'll stay on a little while longer. The caller that was holding on just hung up. So, listen, guys, I'm sorry. This is the way that I feel about this show. I was on the radio for, 15 years or something like that. And I used to have producers. I used to have people that were paid by the radio station telling me that I should cut some caller off. I'm like, how can I cut them off? This is a fucking hair loss show. If people are bored or they're tired of listening to people who are out there suffering, it's probably not the show for you. That's how I feel. So the phone number is 888-659-3727. If anyone else has any questions or concerns or just needs to vent, I will leave the line open for a couple more minutes. Otherwise, I'm just going to close up shop. All right. I don't see any calls. All right, guys. Listen, until next time, I'm going to give out the websites. It's thebaldtruth.com. Let me give out Joe's website. Even though Joe decided not to do the show today, I'm going to turn off the phones, by the way, so you guys don't try to call him the last minute. Even though Joe chose not to do the show today, his website's really important. It's hairtransplantmentor.com. That's everything Joe Tillman at hairtransplantmentor.com. My website is thebaldtruth.com. Sometimes we throw up archives of the show. Sometimes we don't. But if you absolutely want to see archives of this broadcast, you can go and check out Joe Tillman's YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/hair transplant mentor. That's a tough one. Why can't I remember that? And do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell to make sure that you're notified when we go live or if Joe puts up a video. And, check it out. And for everyone who's taken the time to just watch me solo today, click the like button. It helps Joe's channel a lot. And Joe has a really important channel on YouTube. He's really the only YouTuber, in my view. Well, I'm not going to say that because these other guys are going to get pissed off. But, this is one guy who's never sold out. Let's put it that way. And he's done a tremendous service for many years for all of you guys and for every hair loss sufferer who has the opportunity to find him. So that's youtube.com/hair transplant mentor. Make sure you subscribe. And if you're in the chat room right now, do me a favor and like the broadcast. This really helps Joe's page. American Hair Loss Association is AmericanHairLoss.org. If you want to check out our message forum, that's baldtruthtalk.com. Not a fan of message forums in this field. Even though I have one, even though it's in my best interest to tell you guys to check out the forum and be a part of it and subscribe or to sign up and to be active because it helps traffic, I would say if you could stay off the forums, stay off the forums. Go there, check out some physicians, check out some before and after images, maybe ask some questions and get the fuck out of there. That's baldtruthtalk.com. And let's see. The International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons is IAHRS.org. If you're considering having hair transplant surgery, look, I created and founded the organization about 20 years ago for a reason. And when I started it, I think I was only able to bring on 32 doctors. And to tell you the truth, if you look at the numbers, we haven't accepted that many more. The vast majority of physicians who were with us at the beginning, unless they've retired or died are still part of what we do. And we rarely bring on new people. That's probably going to change as we evolve the organization. I'll let you guys know more about that. But the truth is we've had, I don't even know the count now. It could be up to, it's over 1,200 people apply to the organization. And I think I've accepted a total of, over the years, 75 or something like that. Removed a couple, 1 or 2 dropped out on their own, and the rest either died or retired. And then we kind of replaced some with some younger guys. That's the way it is. We try to create the safest atmosphere for you to do your due diligence. But remember, everybody on that group in this organization, everyone who pays their monthly dues, has at least one patient out there who's unhappy. That is the nature of cosmetic surgery. So please do your own due diligence. That's iahrs.org. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you guys so much for listening. And Happy New Year to all of my Jewish friends. Take care.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.